Hello everyone and welcome. This is Steve McLaughlin. I'm going to show you today some ideas on saving your files, proper file sizes, and so forth. This particular photograph I took this weekend, and obviously a lot of color in it, had some fun out there. This particular piece of property, I actually shot it from the highway and had to wait for cars to go by and get back on the highway, jump back off, and so forth. But I wanted to get some shots in this, general vicinity. So what if I want to print this? What if I want to email this? What do I do with sizes and all that? There's a lot really that needs to be considered. First of all, if I take an image like that, and if we go to image size, you'll see this is a rather robust image. It's 51 megabytes. It was just brought in as a raw file. If we change these to inches, you see it's 11 by 17 by default, and the resolution is 300. So that's great. I can definitely live with that. I can reduce the noise in here and so forth. Go in and change the size of the image here with generally okay results. Okay, what if I want to make this an 8 by 10, obviously, or let's say 11 by 14. That's a nice wall size, 11 by 14, so a lot of printers can handle that. Well, if you look at this, it doesn't work out well, does it? It's 11 by 17, so we're going to lose roughly 4 inches off this image, either the left or the right side or a little of both. So that's number one decision. Number two decision, if this is an image that we want to send to somebody via email, what do we do with these numbers then? Well, first let's think in terms of making this into something we want to enter in an art competition, or we want to put in a frame on our own wall. We want to mount it, mat it, put it on our own wall at home, or in the hopes that somebody else would like to buy it, right? All right, to do that, we're going to have to size this right, or again, let me backtrack here and go back to the image size. If we want to keep these dimensions, we're going to have to get a specialized print made. We're going to have to actually oversize it, and we're going to have to we could print it at a normal size, and then we have to mount it and mat it especially for this particular size. So that's something to consider. You're also going to have to buy a non-typical size frame, so it's probably going to have to be a specially constructed frame for a piece that's this odd, size that's this odd, I should say. So all things to consider. And what most of us do is we change these into an 11 by 14 or a 16 by 20 or whatever. Let's say we want to make this a 16 by 20. The fact that this is a resolution 300 gives us some nice leeway. We can go in here and change this to a 20. Just type it in, and you see that we're still really way off, if not worse so. So let's just bring this one here to 16 and see how far off we really are. So if this is 16 inches tall, it's 24 inches wide. So we're way off. If we make it 11 by 14, we're 2.5 inches off. I just did a 20 by 24 for college. Let's say the height is 24, and the width becomes 36. Actually, the width on mine was, the width was 24. So I needed this to be a 20 by 24 for it to work in a traditional frame. So there are all kinds of issues with this. It all boils down to we're going to have to make some changes in this image. And it's a tough part to do. I'm going to make this, again, a 16, well, we're going to make a 16 by 20 out of a 16 by 24. So we click OK. It takes a few seconds for it to change because it is a huge file. Alright, let me make that a little bit smaller. Command minus a couple of times. So we can go up here now and say we're going to crop it. We've got to get rid of some of that area. So we can tell it right in here. It shows you if you want to do this the way I'm doing it. You go up here to the crop size and be sure it's on width, height, resolution. And we know this is going to be a 16 or a 20, I'm sorry. So we just type in, just select that, type in 20, make sure it says IN, not pixels, or it's going to be very small. And we want this to be 16. So it quickly shows you, and the resolution is 300, that's what we need for a nice print. To go higher as a waist, you can go down to around 240 and you're not going to lose anything much. It's very acceptable, but I like to keep mine at 300. So if we click in our image, we can move it to one side or the other. This is, this is where you have to determine what can I afford to give away here. If you want to make sure it doesn't go off kilter, you can hold down your shift key and it'll slide perfectly left and right. You can put this right in the middle, which is usually not the most acceptable. Sorry about that. Hit escape here a couple of times. And we can also, I don't know why my numbers changed. Try that again. Okay. So you basically have the rule third grids here where it's cut into a tic-tac-toe board. Normally we want to put the subject matter on one of the thirds. That means it would be here or here, up here, down here, so forth. The thirds are very handy as far as interesting and artistic compositions. So if we move this all the way over to the left and we put what was in the center of the image over here in this third, it makes what I feel is a little nicer image. If we want to include all of this edge of this tree, we simply click and go back the other direction just a little bit, because this really isn't the subject, so we don't have to base the image on that particular evergreen. So we can go ahead and scooch it over as far as we want to, or we can say we find this part of the image to be a much better image. It's totally your call. It's a tough call to make, unfortunately. Nonetheless, it has to be made to fit in a traditional frame. So once you've done that, you can either double click inside or hit your enter key and the crop takes place. So you're left with this image, and I realize a lot of really interesting stuff got zapped, to put it lightly. So we can go back and forth and look at that. Here's where we were, here's where we are. It's unfortunate, because that makes, to me, it makes a much more interesting image than this does. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go back and crop it more towards including this on the right, or I'm sorry, on the left, and see how I like that. So there's the before and there's the after. So it's your call. You're the artist, you're the person that saw this beautiful thing. It's a good idea, in retrospect. This isn't helpful once you've shot it, but when you're out photographing, give some extra on the sides. Put some extra on the sides of your image that you know is going to get cropped off. Got to kind of keep that in mind, okay? So now, if we go to have this printed, we've got our image cropped the way we want it. We can go back up to image size, make sure everything's good here. It's exactly where we wanted it to be. So I'm going to cancel that. Now we've got to go to File, Save As. We don't want to do Save because then it writes over the top of our original file, and we do not want that. We may want to change this later on and crop from a different direction. So we're going to go right up here and File, Save As, and let's just put it on the desktop. I'm going to go with the default name, but I'm going to change the format. So I'm going to go to TIFF. It's off your screen, and I apologize for that, but TIFF is down at the very bottom. So now we have Spring is Sprung.tiff, and we can do a save, and then we get this dialog box. None is the compression that we want. We want to keep our image pristine. If you know your printer, people use Macintoshes, simply switch to that. Usually doesn't make much difference anymore because the two computers speak very well with each other. They see each other's files, Mac more so than PC. And we click OK. And let's see if I can find my Spring images right here. And so I can see what I can open it with here. Let's try Window Viewer. And it worked in Window Viewer. I know you can't see all of it, but it worked fine, and it keeps the image in really good shape. Alright, so back to Photoshop again. That's one way to save it. Another way to save it, File, Save As. Obviously, if they want this as a PDS file or PSD file, we simply click on the Photoshop file. We don't want to, save our layers to this unless they specifically ask you to adjust something for you. Normally, any artist that I've ever known or photographer does not let people work on their individual layers. So I keep, see, there's a checkbox that we can use down here normally. I do let the default ICC profile run from Adobe RGB 1998. We can also turn that off if we wish. Okay, and then we can just save it off to our desktop. And I already have that file on my desktop, so I'm not going to overwrite it. The other thing we can do is the JPEG, obviously. If you do save it as a JPEG also, do the save, you do want to run this all the way up to 12. Keep it on baseline standard. You can do the preview if you want. Don't think it's going to help you much, but keep the quality as large as you can make it. Notice it's still a very, very large file, and that's okay. Click OK. So now we have also, we have the JPEG out here somewhere. You can see I made my desktop one of the Spring pictures that I was quite enamored with it. Okay, we've got the image down to this particular size, and if we want to always keep track, we can turn the rulers on. We do that with Control key on a PC, Command key on the Mac, and press the letter R as in radar, and that brings up our size, our rulers. If it's in pixels, you want to see it in inches, just move your cursor right up into the ruler, right click, and change it to inches. That can be a lot more helpful. So right now you see we have a 16. You see, if we bring a guide down, there's the 16-inch mark, and it should be 20 inches wide. There's the 20-inch, and 0 doesn't start till right there. So we do have a 16 by 20. Now, do we want to send an 82 megabyte file to our friends? No, we don't. Not in an email. So we go to image size, and this no longer should be 16 by 20. We're not sending it to them to print. We're sending it to them to view, generally speaking. So the resolution for anything that goes on a website or in email should be 72. Anything else is wasted above 72. And this really saves space on your file size. Look what just happened up here at the top to our file size. We went from 82 megabytes to just under 5 megabytes. So that's a whole bunch better, right? So we click OK. And now it looks like we've got this tiny image, but notice down here in the corner, this is only 12.5% of its actual size. So if we click on that and type in 100, hit enter, it's huge again. And I'll do a control minus, command minus on a PC so you can see. We've still got a great looking image because Photoshop does such a wonderful job using the Jpeg compression. All right, still, do we really want to send these people for best viewing a 16 by 20? Well, let's go ahead and do a file save as, and save this as a JPEG on the desktop. Newest, and we'll click that. And here's another place that we can help trim the size. Notice now we're down to 1.4, 1.1. Usually around a 5 or 6 is fine. It's still pretty large, but it still gives us a fairly decent quality. Here's what webmasters do. You go to File, down to Save for Web. This gives you a 4-up, and let me make this smaller. This gives you a 4-up of all different sizes. I'm going to do a control minus, get more of the image in there. So that's a little bit too small. So what it does, you see we're on optimized here, and the quality is at 33. This shows you how big the file size is going to be and how long it'll take them to download it. If we say that they are on a cable modem, you see right here, then it's going to take them 5 seconds to download this image. You can control the size of this by clicking here, and you've got this slider, or you can just click this and you watch the numbers that are in here. So I'm just going to raise that up. You see now I've gone over a megabyte, 1.62 megabytes. All right, so it's gotten considerably bigger. It's still not horrible for somebody that's on cable. It's only going to take them 12 seconds to download this image. So we click on this. If we click on this one and make changes, then it changes to this. This shows you gradually the smaller the file size is, what's going to happen in the picture. So if we make these pictures larger, and then we can see some detail. Notice up here the detail compared to the detail down here. So a lot of times these will start falling apart. Now if I put the brackets, see the brackets that go around each of these viewing windows, if I put the brackets on this one and take the quality down very much further, and I'm going to just look at that, and I think you can tell the difference between these two. There's color information gone from this one that's in this one. Here's the original. Here's the one that we've been working on. Let's click back on it again. And we can take that slider way down, and you probably can see the difference in the image as we do that. Let's run it all the way to 100%. And you can see it brightens up, more color, more detail. And once we're satisfied that we've got the file size where we want it, and I'm going to say something around a 50% is good, and we can also type that in, 50, and click Save down here at the bottom. Again, I'm going to put it down on my desktop, and let's call this one something a little bit different. And click OK. Here's the misspelled new name that I've got on it. Let's right click on it and say Open with Windows Photo Viewer, and it still looks pretty remarkably good. So not going to gripe about that. Now here's the rule of thumb. There's several rules of thumb on sending emails and posting to web and things like that. If you'd like to take your images and put them on a particular website like Flickr or Facebook or whatever, I'm going to give you some sizes to really pay attention to. And really, it's a great rule of thumb if you want to send these images to your friends or family. I'm going to go back to my original image, so I'm just going to revert this and make it smaller. Make it a little bit bigger. Alright, so we've got this image, and you see we're back to the 16 by 20 at 300. If I want to send this in an email or post it on a website, what's the first thing we do? Right, we change the resolution to 72, always. 300's for printing, the internet and web pages, 72, always. Now, here's what I like to do for the others, and I've been doing this for years with students, 16 years as a matter of fact. We change this back to pixels, and you might want to write this down somewhere. If it's an image that's wider than it is tall, which this one is, this is a horizontal image, this becomes the only important number. That important number is 640. This number will automatically change itself to keep perspective. So if I click OK now, you see it's small, but it's only 12.5% again. So I'm going to Control or Command plus a few times. And you see we still have a nice image for sending an email or posting on the internet. Now that's at 100%. If you look at our box over here, that's 100%, and it doesn't look bad. If we make it bigger, you can see it start falling apart rather quickly, but it's not for printing. It's for a website, or it's for your friends and that you want to send it to, relatives. The other thing that we can do to really optimize it again is go to File, Save for Web, look at this again, and you can, really change this number right here. This will optimize your images. If you look at this, this shows you it's optimized. We can look at the 2 up or the 4 up and change this accordingly. I usually try to keep these. See, if this were going to go on a web page, 244 is still too big. So we bring it down somewhere around 100 usually. And we click Save. And post it or save it to our desktop or another folder or whatever. Now I'm going to cancel this because over here we're going to do, notice we're still working on a 16 by 20 image here. So I'm going to go back to image size, and let's say I said that's the cropping if we still had that size of an image. I'm going to say that I took this picture vertically, and how I'm going to do that is I'm going to chop some off here, and let's go with unconstrained. And we're going to say this is the picture I took. So now this changes the format. This is a vertical image, no longer a horizontal image. So if I want to send this through the email, I go to image, image size, and I'm going to actually revert back before I changed all those numbers so you can get a better handle on this. Let's back it up in the history a little bit. Let's see what our resolution is now. Beautiful. Okay, so we'll make that smaller. All right, cropping, here we go. So I'm going to say that's my vertical. So I like this image, okay, because I get to see all the trees pretty much. So let's say I want to send this to Aunt Mabel. So I go to image, image size, and now it's a vertical, but it's still going on the web, or it's still going in an email. I've got to change this to 72, and then I need to change this. Now this is different. Remember, if it was wide, if the image was a horizontal, it was 640. Well, now it's going to be 460. Then I put 450 and click OK. Now if we look down here in the corner, it says that's only 12%, so I Control plus or Command plus on a Macintosh, and there's 50%, and there's 100%. So it really is a nice size for sending in an email, because if you send them those huge files, they can't even see it on their computer screen. They have to scroll to see it all. And this is nice and easy to attach to an email, or like I said, post on a web page. So now we do the file, save for web. We have our choices again. This one's going to save with 50 quality, which is right here. It's going to be a 200K file. Not too big for posting on the internet, maybe a little. This is more ideal for posting on the internet. But certainly, this is not a big deal to send to your friends. It'd be 2 seconds for them to download this image if they have a cable modem or T1. And you can always change that. They've only got a 1 MIP cable, let's say. So now it's going to take them 3 seconds. So that's a good way to judge how fast your stuff's going to get there. You just click save, and something new. And let's just see this right up here. Here's something new. I'll right click on it and open with Windows Viewer. And you see, still nice looking image. I don't think there should be any complaints about that particular image. Let me slide it down a little bit so you can see the rest of it. There you have it. You know, pretty good looking image. And that's all they need. That's all the people need that you're sending these images to. They don't need the humongous file that this started out as being, for certain. So let's revert this again and make it a normal size. They just don't need that big of a file. So remember, a lot depends on the very first thing. Once you say you're done with the image, I am done, I always save a file somewhere to keep it pristine. Not to touch it, not to shrink it, not to resize it, nothing else. Save it to a file folder marked, work finished, or spring photographs or whatever, and don't touch those. And then create another folder that says ready for email, ready for online or web, and then maybe one that says ready for printing. And obviously, if we go to image size, we want this always to say 300 for printing. If we're going to send it to in an email, it always has to be 72. If it's going to go on a website, it has to be 72. Okay, we changed that, but I want you to remember something. I'm back here to this being 300 resolution. Don't change this number first. Now remember, for a horizontal image, you want to make this 640, right? And this number takes care of itself. This is a horizontal size, but our resolution is too high, so you change this to 72. Watch what happens to the other numbers. Now it's a 154 over 123. That's just going to be super tiny. That's at 100% right there. So I'm going to hold down my Alt key, Option key on a Mac, and click Reset. This number always has to be changed first. Never change anything else except the resolution first. 72 for web and for email. And then up here, 640. Click OK. And then let's make it bigger so you can see it again. That's at 100% at 640 pixels wide. Now, pixels is the way to measure things on the web. The web screens are set up in pixels, so that's why we convert these things to 640. I think I told you, well, I know I told you a while ago, if it's vertical, if I cut this off and or took the picture and the picture is taken this way, and we do, let me back up here. Let me cut this off. We'll say that's our vertical picture that I took. If I go to image size, again, we want to change that to 72 if we're sending it by email or putting it on the web. I think I told you 460 a while ago. It's 450 for the width on a vertical image. 640 for a horizontal image. Otherwise, it's wider than it is tall. This image is taller than it is wide, so it should be 450. And click OK. Again, we'll Control plus, and there's 100%. The thing is, you can't have a vertical image 640 because then when people go to view it, it goes off the page. So we have to trim it back to a 450. Okay. So there's the whole thing. Hopefully you'll find this very helpful. Remember, when you save your things to email, or if you are saving it to post on the web, you really should go to File, Save for the Web, look at these images, and remember, you can use the Control plus, Command plus on a Macintosh, and Control minus to see. If 4 are too busy, click the 2 up, and again, Control plus, Control minus. These have already been tweaked quite a bit, so they do fall apart as we get them bigger like that. But here you can decide. Here's the original, and here is the next size, and you can see it's 137K. Maybe you wanted to send it to the family a little bit higher. That's around 50%, we'll say. It's still only 202K, and it'll only take them 3 seconds to get it. And that's what most of us are going to do. Others send it to a web page may be held to a standard of size, which is easy to be met by this. Never mark this as a progressive. A progressive will basically, you save that to a website, and it's one of those images that starts out looking horrible, like it's been trashed, and it passes like doing a pass, and it gets better. It does another pass, and it gets better again. The problem with those is the file size is bigger because it's actually sending multiple images to make one image. So keep it on optimize. That's where it needs to be. Make sure JPEG is selected up here. If you're modifying those images, Ping 8 and Ping 24 are getting much more popular. They do a better job at compression. The images just look better, but not everybody's browser, some older browsers don't support it. You probably before too awfully long will see this being the standard 8 or 24 ping. All right, so then we just save it once we're tickled to death with it, and we give it that name that we want it, and put it wherever you want on your computer. Find the drive that you want it to go to or whatever, and hit save, and you're home free. I already have one with that name, but I'll replace it. That wraps up this video. I hope you found it very helpful. Remember, if you're going to print your image, the image size definitely should still be, the resolution should be 300, but you're going to have to crop those images as they come standard out of the camera. They're not exact 8 by 10s, 11 by 14s, 16 by 20s, any of that. So you have to make that all-important decision where to crop. And then, as we talked about the formats already, hopefully all of this makes good sense. If it doesn't, let me know. I know how to clarify, I think. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.